What's up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY. As always, sponsored by Bet Parks and Central City Toyota. Actually headed over to see Uncle Jamie today after I get off over at Central City Toyota. Need to get my car serviced. Well, tomorrow's the parade. Is it the same? Because I feel so detached right now. Not doing sports radio for 4 hours every day. And doing Philly just for an hour, but still, we're not taking calls. And, I'm not saying we're not getting a good pulse of the people, just getting it in different ways. Are a lot of people going down to the parade? So I know in 2018, you would have had to have had me in handcuffs not to be down at the parade. And I was in the parade, but still, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I was working the Phillies 2008, so I saw the parade, but I was working, right? But it was always that thing. It's always the thing we would say. It's I want to see a parade, right? That's all we wanted. We want to see a parade. And there's a parade tomorrow. The second one in 8 years for the Philadelphia Eagles. Is everybody going down? I would love a correspondent. If you're watching this show, and good morning to everybody out there, our mad chatters that join us every morning live on YouTube at 8 o'clock, PHLY. Find us, search us, subscribe to us. Like, comment, all that good stuff. If there's somebody out there that sees this, maybe I'll have to put this out on Twitter as well. If you're going to be at the parade at 8 o'clock, if you're going to wait in line, I don't know how early people are getting there. I'll send you a link. Tyler will send you a link, and you can connect and be like, all right, this is what it looks like out here. Where are you? Whatever. So if you're going down tomorrow and you're watching this and you want to be a live correspondent, because we do team coverage here. You know how the local news stations do team coverage? Live team coverage. Let's send it to Pat Gallen down at the Art Museum. Pat. Yeah, so we'll have to do some check-ins tomorrow morning as people get ready for the parade. But so I've noticed over the last couple of days, really since the Eagles have won the Super Bowl, and you saw it during the season, in particular with Dallas media, Cowboys media, where they started looking at what the Eagles are doing a little bit closer, because Jerry Jones is crying poor. And, we can't afford these players. Half of it is because you refuse to actually give contracts in advance to players. So now you're paying top of the market franchise tags and things like that, which carry these huge cap numbers. But they're realizing, look, how do the Eagles do business? Why are the Eagles successful? What are we doing here in Dallas that's not working? What are the Eagles doing? And very quickly, they saw what the Eagles are doing. They're extending players before they really have to. They're not waiting for free agency. And they're giving out all the money up front. And this allows for cap flexibility to where the Eagles can essentially write whatever contract they want, and they can kick everything into the future so they can sign whoever they want now. They've been doing this for years. The Eagles have been doing this for years. It's just now that the rest of the league is saying, all right, hang on a second. Look at their offensive line. You get Pro Bowlers up and down the offensive line. Everybody's making money for the most part. How do they afford Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown? Dallas Goedert's making a bag. Jalen Hurts. Oh, they bring in Saquon Barkley, right? You look at these big contracts. How do they afford everybody? So Joe Burrow said recently, because T. Higgins may be leaving Cincinnati, right? He's a free agent. And Joe Burrow's looking at what the Eagles have done. And he's like, hang on a second. Joe Burrow says, hey, the Eagles pay everyone. We can pay T. Higgins. And he's right. They could pay T. Higgins if they wanted to. The Bengals could get whoever they want, right? The problem is that to do that and to fit him under your cap, you would have to, what the Eagles do is pay everybody up front. So I don't want to get too in the weeds here with all this stuff, but just very simply said, what the Eagles do is they will, for a lot of players, they will give them their money in advance, which means it's out of the Eagles' pocket and their bank account, and they're giving them the money up front. What player wouldn't want that? Now he can take that money and he can invest it. He can put it in the bank. If you have a couple, $100 million you put in the bank, not that they're doing this, but you're not getting a half a point interest on that money. You're gaining a lot more interest on it. So you're making money with that money, which is why teams don't want to do it, because a cash poor team like the Bengals with Joe Burrow, they don't want to give these guys $300 million up front or have to put that in escrow. They want that money in the bank so it's making interest. These players, get paid every game check. So they get the game checks. They're not paid in advance. There's a lot of Eagles that are paid in advance and they don't really get a game check. So that's how you do it. And that's what the Eagles have been doing it, right? So, for example, the Eagles are paying Jalen Hurts $42 million in cash next year. That's more than Joe Burrow's making at 35.3, but it's structured differently. Burrow's cap hit wouldn't be as high if they just gave him the bonus. That's what the Eagles do. They just, when the Eagles redo contracts, they just say, all right, Lane Johnson's going to be here. So let's just tear up the contract. We'll give him $40 million in new money, and then his cap hits are nothing. And then they have these void years where like they know they're not even going to be there, but it's a way to manipulate the cap. The Eagles, so in these void years, again, Tyler, I hope I'm not getting too much in the weeds here. I just find it fascinating that everybody's just figuring out what the Eagles are doing right now. The most cap dollars currently in void years right now, which is what the Eagles use, is $390 million. The next closest team is $204 million. The Eagles have $185 million more dollars in these void years, which are just nonsense to kick contracts into the future. So they're able to get all these players and sign all these players. That's how they do it. And it takes an owner that says, yeah, I'll write the big check right now because it makes us better. If Jerry Jones wanted to do this, because it obviously doesn't affect the cap negatively. If Jerry Jones wanted to do this, he could do it. But you know what he doesn't want to do? He doesn't want to pay that money out up front because that's not what he wants to do. That's not a business model that he wants to promote in the NFL. Do you know there's actually 2 teams that don't have $1 in these void years? Not one team. Like Cincinnati has $9 million void, Tennessee 4, Atlanta 5, even the 10th team, Detroit, has $52 million. It's not used by everybody. Guess what? More teams are probably going to start using it. So once again, this is an example of the Eagles just being a better organization than everybody else. Jeffrey Lurie being a better owner than everybody else. Howie Roseman being a better GM than anybody else. And believe me, you still have to draft and sign good players. You can't have crappy drafts and this works. You can't have crappy free agent signings. I know Bryce Huff is, and it works. You still need to be a team that has great draft picks and great players that you're signing. But keep this in mind. The Eagles are also very cheap on the defensive side of the football. Remember when they won their first Super Bowl? Fletch was making a lot of money. BG was making a lot of money. Malcolm Jenkins was making a lot of money. Bradham was making a lot of money. On this defense, the highest paid guys are going to, like Slay, they have no guaranteed money left. Slay and Bradbury. If Slay's not back, it's because he has no guaranteed money left. They may move on from him. They don't have a lot of guys on defense making a lot of money. On offense, they're number 1 in cash spending and 17th on defense. Next year, 1 in cash spending on offense, 25 on defense. So when you have a young and inexpensive defense, you can go all out and have whoever you want on offense. And that's what the Eagles have done. But Jeffrey Lurie, back when they were in the NFC Championship era, under Andy Reid and Donovan, he had called the Eagles the gold standard. And he shouldn't have said it because they hadn't won a Super Bowl. But his point was that they modernized NFL front offices, and they did. They were signing players early and then getting better values on their contracts. They were saying, hey, I know it's only 2 years into your contract, but we really think you're good. Let's give you an extension right now, and you'll be set for the rest of your life. And these players took it. So they did that, and then other teams started doing that. But they really were the first cap-wise teams, and that was 20-some years ago. And now what they're doing with these nonsense roster bonuses and whatever they do, the cap isn't real. I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand. There's still people in the media that I see responding to things like that saying, oh yeah, but it's going to catch up. It's going to catch up to them eventually. It only catches up to them eventually if their players suck. And then they need to retool. Otherwise, if there's no end of a road, right? When you're kicking the can down the road, when you have a dead end is when you have to stop kicking the can. If there's no dead end and the cap goes up every year, you can keep kicking the can down the road as long as the owner is paying money, which Jeffrey Lurie's doing. Tyler Zulli, man, I couldn't be happier. I like this is last year when they were 10-1. I remember saying, man, I want to pinch myself. This doesn't seem real. This team is freaking unbelievable. And then it fell apart. No, this team is actually unbelievable. This organization is unbelievable. And does it feel like this team's done winning Super Bowls during this run right here? Doesn't it feel like, I know it's hard to repeat, brother, Doesn't it feel like there's more Super Bowls coming up here?
Well, I will say this. You're right. It's extremely hard to repeat. It's extremely hard to win a first one or a next one or whatever that might be. But this team has set themselves up for sustained success. And really, that's what I ask for in a run, because I know how hard it is to win a championship. I know how hard it is to win a Super Bowl, a World Series, a Stanley Cup, whatever the case may be. You win one and you feel like you've reached the pinnacle. Now with this, the way that this team is structured, I'm asking for sustained success, because I'm not going to say repeat or 2 and 3 years or whatever the case may be. But if this team is competitive for the next 3-4 seasons, like highly competitive for the next 3-4 seasons, you're talking about a window from 22 to, let's say, like 27, a 5-6 year gap, where it's a highly competitive team in probably the most like turnover laden sport in America, in the NFL.
No doubt.
And so that's all I can ask for, is competitiveness at a high level for half a decade, 7 years, whatever the case may be. That's enough for me. But when you bring up the cap hits and things like that, you brought up the point that it only works if you draft well. And that's true, because the Eagles have drafted extremely well over the last 3 seasons. The Eagles have been able to add to their fold the higher, salary players, not just their own guys, but giving A.J. Brown the extension, giving Saquon Barkley the money, and those type of guys, because the fact that they drafted well. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Milton Williams, Landon
that
Dickerson.
just means, and you may lose Williams, he may outprice him, but you're right. That just means, like, when you can draft young players, even if they're making first-round money, they look what they contributed in the Super Bowl, man.
Sure.
All draft picks on defense.
Well, and that's
unbelievable.
That's the thing with the first-round money now. It's not the Sam Bradford contract anymore, right? It's not the basically destroys your franchise if you get it wrong. There's a rookie wage scale that the most you can pay is X amount of dollars for
not a free agent contract.
Correct.
Right? Yep.
So to me, like, as long as you relatively hit on your first-round pick and have subsequent success in the later rounds to, relative subsequent success, this is a formula that works and is a sustainable model for this team. And that's why, to me, I'm asking for sustainable competitiveness. And I think that this team has the ability to provide that to you over the next, 3-4 years.
Well, this portion of the program sponsored by Glatt Hair Restoration, GlattHairMM.com, GlattHairMM.com. Call them 610-980-4000. You can see.
MM is Mark's Media. That was part of your deal.
No, it's Morgan Stern Medical. Because I said, MCTR, people might hear N. It just doesn't roll off the tongue as GlattHairMM.com does. All right, so let's do this. And I want to try this. We'll see if we can get a couple. We did it last week or 2 weeks ago. Questions, comments, suggestions. QCS. Questions, comments, suggestions. Tyler is going to star and favorite the best ones that come up there between now and the end of the show, and then we're contractually required to answer the question. So this could be a personal question. Like, do I pee sitting down during the middle of the night? I will answer it if you ask it. All right? Sports, current state of the Eagles, whatever it is, and then it could be inside stuff, radio stuff, me peeing with the seat down. So just put it up there, right there in the live chat. Question, and that's why you want to be a live chatter every morning at 8 o'clock, because we get good questions. Questions, comments, suggestions, QCS. That's coming up last segment of the show. Bill from Northeast Philly actually has texted me and said that he wants to be a correspondent. So I said, as long as you're down before 9, he'll be in. So we do have correspondents. We're looking for correspondents going to the parade that'll be there between 8 and 9 o'clock that can check in. We have that. Coming up later in the show, again, last segment, some Phillies conversation. Tyler Zulli is the new host of the PHLY Phillies show. And he's taking the bull by the horn. So we'll talk to Tyler about that coming up. I want to play this. So who are the Eagles, like, once we get over the hysteria and everything of the Super Bowl and the parade, then we'll start looking at free agency and the draft and all that stuff. But who do you want to open the season with? If you're an Eagle fan, what's the first game? Now you open up the season. Oh, man, all eyes are on Philadelphia. Who will the Eagles be hosting week 1? And I think most Eagles fans were looking at it as the best game scenarios, the Commanders. Based on now the rivalry, they're a really good young team. They're going to add free agent dollars. Like, for everybody who wants to kill Josh Harris, he's probably going to spend a lot of money down there with Washington, and we're going to hate him even more. But I don't think he's going to be a bad owner for Washington. That's for sure. So that would be a very competitive game. Adam Schefter was on with, who is the guy? Because I just look at his profile. I guess he's a pretty popular, and he calls himself a fanalist of the Bears, where he literally, it's like a reporter on Twitter, and he does a podcast and things like that. Adam Schefter was on with him. And I hate Adam Schefter. Here's Adam Schefter on this guy's podcast. I don't know who he is.
And here are the exact possibilities. The Commanders, interesting. The Cowboys, not bad. The Giants, the division foes.
Shut up.
Then we have the Bears, Lions, Raiders, Rams, and Broncos. Now, this is interesting. The Broncos would be a compelling matchup that came on this year, but I don't think the league will go that way. The Rams would be an NFC championship game rematch. I don't know. League could opt for that. Don't think it will. The Raiders, Pete Carroll's first game, probably not good enough to put on Thursday night. Not what the league is looking for. The Lions would be compelling, but I also could see the league saving that game for one of its prime time sweep ratings weeks where they need to get the big numbers. And so we have the division opponents, which are always in play, and the Chicago Bears. And the Chicago Bears, in my mind, become the matchup to watch for that Thursday night opener. I can totally.
All right, so that's Schefter. Someone clearly told him that it's likely, or that's a strong possibility to be the Bears, because there's nobody out there that wants to watch that game. I don't want to watch that game. I would like it, honestly, as an Eagle fan, because if you put the Commanders up here, which would be the game, like if I'm the NFL, I'm doing Commanders and Eagles. That would Tyler, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but the Commanders and the Eagles would be the best matchup. As far as buzz coming off last year, rematch of the NFC Championship game, a stud young quarterback. If they add a couple of veterans, if they get Myles Garrett, if they trade for a wide receiver, if they sign a wide receiver, that's a really tough matchup for the Eagles coming off raising the banner and everything else. I don't necessarily want that. I would much rather have the Bears, but there's nobody that thinks a Bears-Eagles matchup's intriguing like Adam Schefter's trying to. Someone told Adam Schefter something. No one wants to see the Bears and the Eagles.
Listen,
it's not intriguing.
If you want the Eagles to start the season 1-0, I want the Raiders, right? I want a bad team. I want the worst team they could possibly play on opening night to start the year 1-0. But I think that when you think about, when they won the Super Bowl in 2017, they opened up 2018 with the Atlanta Falcons. It was a rematch from the year prior. They had beaten the Falcons in the postseason. It made sense, right?
Yeah.
So to me, the three games that make the most sense is Detroit, because of the fact that it's two high-profile teams, two teams that are probably, when healthy, the two best teams in the NFC. But I agree with Adam on that regard. I think the NFL is going to want to save that game for a late
week 5, week 6,
late October, early November,
Agreed.
Sunday night football game.
And I'd rather have both teams playing. Beginning of the season could be fluky.
Sure.
Right? Like the Patriots beat the Bengals in week 1, and they barely won another game the rest of the season. So, yeah, I would rather have both teams kind of ready to go.
Playing their best football, assuming that they're both healthy. So that leaves you with two teams. It's Washington and it's the Rams, in my opinion. And it makes sense. It's the two teams the Eagles beat, two of the teams the Eagles beat on their way to winning the Super Bowl. So Washington would be the most compelling game. And I know that they want to make division games later in the year, make division games matter, make them, mean something down the stretch, especially for these two teams that we expect to both be pretty good teams in 2025. So to me, when all that is added into the fold, if I were making the schedule, I think I would open up the season with the Rams, because keeping the other two for later in the season, the Rams make the most sense to me.
Makes a lot of sense. Do they worry about is Stafford back?
It's a fair question,
right?
Is Cooper Kupp back? Are they even going to be as good as they were this past year?
Cooper Kupp will not be back. He's going to be traded. He came out and tweeted that, so he is not going to be back. I would like to see the Rams. To me, the feel is that they're putting the Bears in because they want that Chicago market, and they are trying to pump the Bears up. Well, they could be better. I don't know if Ben Johnson gonna have a big effect on the team. Sure, I don't know. Yeah, they could be better. I don't care. They now take the Bears in week 1, but that's not the intriguing matchup that everybody's looking for.
Here's the thing with the Bears. They have almost $65 million in cap space this season. I know you just brought up the cap's not real, but if you want to talk about cap space, the Bears should be looking to spend money this offseason. Now, I will say this. One team that's ahead of them in third, Washington, $80 million in available cap space or projected available cap space. They're going to spend money too. So those two teams make a ton of sense.
There will be a huge buzz going into that game. I mean, I don't know. Like, the Dallas doesn't make sense because you probably want them for a Sunday night later on in the year with the Eagles. Even though Dak Prescott is now having the Eagles circle that game by saying like, oh yeah, we can beat them. Oh man, we're not that far off from them. But so there you go. All right, so we'll come back. Listen, we have more of this conversation. Also, we'll do an early look at Eagles free agency, and we'll kind of rank what our priorities would be as we don't have to go. I don't think we have to go on the record yet, but our early look in the free agency, because the Eagles have some major decisions. As much as I say the cap doesn't matter, they can't pay everybody, can they? Also, Paul George had a heck of a night last night for your Philadelphia 76ers. I can't wait to talk about that. It's Philly with John Marks, PHLY. Don't go anywhere. Oh, man, Bet Parks. Let's talk about them, folks. I spent a lot of time on the Bet Parks app, going to be honest. It's the only app, sports betting app, and online casino that I would ever use. And for good reason, right? It's amazing. The navigation, it's awesome. It's what I use, right? But if you're a fan of table games, a beautiful poker room, state-of-the-art slots, or, and this is something that I'm trying to plan with my wife right now, is going to see a show, going to see a magician, going to see MMA, boxing, right at the Excite Center, the state-of-the-art Excite Center at Parks Casino. Cole Swindell, February 7th. That's coming up last week, actually, so I guess I shouldn't read that. Jerry Cantrell's also been there as well. But Scotty McCreery from American Idol coming up next month. Michael Carbonaro, and that's what I'm pinpointing. That night I'm pinpointing to take the wife because I think we'd enjoy it, and it's something different than we normally do. Larry the Cable Guy back in May. BetParks.com for details and hot online slots. I mentioned all the great stuff they do. But online slots, live dealer blackjack, craps, poker, roulette, right from your phone. And new users download the app, get up to $1,000 casino bonus back. If you're down in the first 24 hours, your casino bonus must be wagered. BetParks.com for details. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, or Maryland for the BetParks app. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, my friends at TrueMark Financial. And I can't say enough about them. Mary Ellen at the Trooper branch. If you're a customer in Trooper and you go in there, just say, hey, Mary Ellen, Johnny Marks talks about you all the time. She's a viewer. She watches, right? Donna, you get a family feel when you go into any TrueMark Financial. And I've been to many branches. You get a family feel. You feel like you're walking in to friends and family. And when you walk in, you're greeted like that. You're treated like that. I'm a business customer. I have a personal account there, right? My needs are met. I feel that as a customer, if I ever had a question or I ever needed anything, it would be so easy to walk in or to email them. I email them all the time and I get the questions answered right away. But right now, if you have a credit card balance that is coming up and you're already paying interest, or maybe you have to pay interest soon, how about 0% until 2026? TrueMark Financial is offering a 0 interest on balance transfers for 12 full months. So all your payments are going towards reducing that balance and not covering interest. Here's the play. Transfer your existing balance from another institution to a TrueMark Financial Visa credit card to take advantage of this amazing offer. You have to apply by February 28th, 2025. Visit TrueMark.com/compare for full details and to apply today. TrueMark Financial, federally insured by the NCUA, equal opportunity lender. Terms and conditions apply. All loans are subject to approval. 3% balance transfer fee applies. Standard rates apply after the promotional rate. Hooah! There you go. All right, so let's do it. I've seen this is like now my favorite. I've been getting into like the cap conversation where now everybody realizes like, oh my God, look what the Eagles are doing. Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, like wow, they're genius. Like so, I've been doing that for the last like 36 hours. But I think the best conversation going on right now with the Eagles is what they're going to do in free agency. Because like everybody has an opinion, everybody has their favorite players. And then it's also not just that. It's like, okay, well, who's going to be the most affordable? Who are they going to be able to sign? What does it look like at the position? So who would you sign? I'll give you the key free agents. And this is from our buddy Shefty, who he's great, on Twitter a couple days ago. He says, Eagles key free agents this offseason: Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams. And then he says Brandon Graham. And BG's either going to be back or he's not going to be. He's not going anywhere else. So I'll omit him. Bond, Sweat, Milton Williams, Becton. Like the Fred Johnsons and some other guys like that. But they're the main guys. Bond, Sweat, Williams, Becton. Yeah. And Milton Williams, yeah. So that gives us, an interesting opinion on what to do next if you're the Eagles. We talk about how the cap isn't real. They actually do have cap dollars that they can roll over. They have cap dollars in the next year. The cap is going to go up. I don't think it's going to change the way that they spend. I don't. I think the Eagles are going to spend the way that they always spend. It's like if they feel like they want to spend, they'll spend. If they feel like that they don't want to spend free agents and they want to lock up their own guys, they'll spend. They'll redo contracts. Like Mailata may get some new restructured contract where they can get cap flexibility if they need it. Like whatever it is, I'm not worried about that. It's a matter of what is the right move to make. So of the four, Zach Bond, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, Becton. I think Becton is the most likely to go. He's an interior guard. He played very well. This isn't the old days where guards make a couple $1 million a year. The top guards in the NFL are making $15 to $20 million a year. Or I should say the free agent guards that are good guards are making it. So teams will look at him and say, okay, former tackle, slid in the guard, really kind of found a place for him in this league where he is an exceptional player. And what do you need to do? Putting him with an organization like the Jets didn't work. He was supposed to solve all the problems on the line. Putting him on a good team with other good linemen in a good organization, look at how much he thrived, right? So if I'm a team, I'm looking at Mekhi, and I need an interior offensive lineman. I'm looking at Mekhi Becton, and I'm throwing a decent amount of money at him. The Eagles can't afford to do that.
So, John, there are currently 19 guards in the NFL who make an average salary of $10 million or more per year.
He's going to make that.
I think he becomes number 20. I think a team will throw a significant amount of money at him for a 3 or 4 year deal. Our sister station, CHGO, has talked a lot about Mekhi Becton being a target for the Bears and on the interior offensive line.
For sure.
I think it would make a ton of sense. We just brought up how they're a team that has a lot of money to spend. I think Becton to the Bears would make a lot of sense. Becton's going to have suitors. He played extremely well. He showed a willingness and an ability to kick inside. And the run blocking was so substantial from him, clearing lanes for Saquon Barkley and getting downfield into the second level. I think he's going to have a pretty large market. I wouldn't be stunned if he becomes, that the 20th or 21st or 22nd player to make an average of $10 million a year from the interior offensive position.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's going. How about this? He's going to. I'd be shocked if he didn't make $10 million a year. Eagles aren't going to pay that. They shouldn't pay that. That is the position where you need to go out, just like they did with Becton, and sign a veteran. And now the template's been made. Like, yo, look at this. Look what Becton did. He came in, he did what he was supposed to, he worked hard, he became a member of the unit, and look at the money he just made. So you're going to get guys that are looking for a 1-year contract where then they can cash in the year after. Or you draft one of these guys. Maybe Steen steps in and he becomes a starter. Regardless, I'd be shocked if Becton came back. If Becton came back, it was because there was no market for him. And I don't see that happening. Honestly, if I'm prioritizing who I want to bring back, I'm going with Milton Williams 1 and Zach Bond 2 and Josh Sweat 3. I don't think Sweat comes back. I think they sign Milton Williams because they see how good he is. Unless the money becomes ridiculous and then they just say, you know what, it's just not worth it. We're not going to do it. Like with Javon Hargrave. Now, Hargrave was older, obviously, but like Hargrave had the same kind of impact, except Williams is better in the run than Hargrave was. Hargrave was a great pass rusher, and he brought pressure up the middle, which was a big deal. Hargrave was great. But I see that in Milton Williams, except he's your draft pick, and you should value keeping him. So I think the Eagles, and I agree, will try to keep Williams first. And then Zach Baun's interesting because you could say, all right, like it took you a while to find a linebacker this good, but are you bringing back Nakobe Dean? Can't you just sign another guy? Is it really that important on this defense? Look at all these other great players. I believe it's very important for Zach Baun to come back because, A, linebackers, non-edge linebackers don't make huge money. They're not making the $20 million a year. Zach Baun isn't going to command that kind of money. And he was very important for this defense. And I think Vic Fangio prioritizes it. He was so important for this defense. Can you look at the 2024 Eagles and their Super Bowl winning defense, their number one defense without Zach Baun? He was their best player, at least as far as defensive player of the year or defensive MVP of the year. Jalen Carter might have been their best player. Listen, you can't say Baun wasn't any better. Sensational. He gave them something at that position that they haven't had for a really, really, really long time. So for me, I can't let Baun leave and I can't let Milton Williams leave. Josh Sweat, you can draft defensive ends that if you have really good tackle play, which the Eagles do, these defensive ends will get sacks. Why do you think Josh Sweat was as good as he was this year? You think it's because he took a magic pill and became this elite edge rusher again, or because he was getting a lot of one-on-one looks and a lot of pressure up the middle to where the quarterback's bailing and they're running right into him? So, Tyler, what do you think? I go Williams, Baun, and then I don't think Sweat and Becton are coming back.
No, I think Sweat's a foregone conclusion. I think Sweat, much like some of the other guys we've talked about, I think are going to get like a pretty substantial monetary deal in free agency. Another plug for one of our sister stations, PHNX, has talked a lot about Josh Sweat to the Cardinals reuniting with Jonathan Gannon.
Yep.
I think that would make a ton of sense. I think he's going to get a large offseason free agent contract. I don't think he's going to be back. I would probably, in terms of priority, and you know how much I love Milton Williams. He's my guy, but in terms of priority, I think it's probably Baun then Williams in between those two. But Baun, Williams, Becton would be the three that I would prioritize. I don't think all three are back. In fact, I would be kind of shocked if two are back. I think the likelihood is you're bringing one of these players back. You bring up Nakobe Dean. When it comes to Zach Baun, Nakobe Dean will be on his final year of his rookie deal next year. What do you pay him? What's his value in open free agency? I think they're going to value bringing him back, especially if he plays well, coming back from the injury. So I think to me, the prioritization would be Baun, Williams, Becton, because I'm not like the world's biggest Tyler Steen fan, but I think you have a replacement if necessary. Plus, I do think they are going to draft on the line pretty early, as they do most years. So to me, in those three, I think prioritization would be Baun, Williams, Becton, with the understanding that I think Josh Sweat is almost definitively gone. And then the other guys, like, I don't think Kenny Gainwell's back. I think Brandon Graham is going to retire, so you're not going to have to worry about that conversation.
If Gainwell wants to take like minimum or close to it, I think he's back. They love him.
Yeah, I know they do, and I think Gainwell is probably going to get not 1A type money, but I think he might get 2A type money or maybe 1B type money.
How much?
I mean, you're probably talking, I don't know, 7 a year, 8 a year.
Oh, no chance. No freaking way.
I wouldn't be stunned in the open market. Maybe not 8, maybe 5 or 6. And it's probably more than the Eagles are willing to spend.
I think he's getting 2 or 3.
Really? I think he gets more than that. I think teams will value his versatility. He's a good pass catcher. He's good out of the backfield on swing routes. I think they'll value his versatility.
J.K. Dobbins made 1.6 last year. That was coming off.
J.K. Dobbins was coming off a blown.
No,
ACL.
I know, but look what he did. He had a good year.
Sure, he had a great year, and it was a 1-year deal, was it not, for Dobbins?
Yeah, he's a free agent.
He's probably going to get more than that, right?
Now he is.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, but
so 7 or 8 was,
take a look at Kenny Gainwell's numbers.
7 or 8 was too high. That was an over exaggeration. But 5, I could see him getting 5.
I can see the Eagles congratulating him.
For 5. Sure, and that's what I'm saying. I think they're going to say,
we'll see.
Best of luck.
We'll see. All right, I'm sure we're going to be talking about this every day until free agency. And so I love it, man. NFL offseason is almost as fun as the regular season. Now, when your team wins the Super Bowl, it's hard to say that, but yeah. All right, so the 76ers last night. Oh, man, what a loss. What a loss. Are we finally in tank mode? everybody. Why the hell is Joel Embiid playing any games? They lost to the Nets last night. Here's why that's important. Their first round draft pick is protected top 6. Right now, only the Wizards, the Hornets, the Raptors, the Pelicans, and the Jazz have worse records. The Nets and the 76ers are tied with the 6th worst record in the league at 20-34. Why is this thing going off? I apologize. So right now they're tied for 6. So if they're 6, they keep their first round draft pick, which right now I would believe would be very important. So they lose last night to the Nets, but it's not just how they lost. And I'm actually like, this is how sick I am right now. A loss like this and performances like this is mean, but it's enjoyable to me. And Paul George has never done anything to me. I'm sure his podcast is great. He has more podcasts than games played with the Sixers. And I'm sure he's a nice guy. Maybe he doesn't deserve this. But last night in 37 minutes in their 196 loss to the Nets, Paul George scored 2 points. He was 1 for 7 from the field, 0 for 5 for 3. He didn't take a foul shot. He got 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 turnovers. Tyrese Maxey sat out last night because he was a late scratch, I think, and Embiid doesn't play back-to-backs. We know that. Oubre went off last night. Quentin Grimes went off last night. It might be a good trade by Daryl Morey if they're able to retain him in the offseason. The Sixers, I hope, are in full tank mode because getting a top 6 pick is important, and there's no reason to continue with this nonsense. You're 14 games under 500. Don't make the play-in tournament. Don't win around. Don't act like everything's okay. They're going to run it back, unfortunately, I think. So I don't ultimately really care anything more about the draft pick and the young players that they have. Paul George went 0 for 5 from 3, 1 of 7 from the field and scored 2 points. And he's a max player for 3 more years after this year. I really don't know what to say. Other than, please, let's have a plan for the future that doesn't include running it back and trying to throw slop on top of this to try to win. Sixers aren't winning a championship with this core. The Sixers aren't winning a championship with this core. The Sixers aren't winning a championship with this core. It's time to figure out an extra strategy. Where do they go from here? I'm over Joel Embiid. I'm over the injuries. I'm over I'm over everything. I'm over everything. I'm over him yelling at Kelly Oubre because of a fast break, defense on a fast break. I'm worried about his erratic behavior. I'm worried about everything. Like, it's time to move on. I'm done. I'm officially done. Who's with me? Because I said this earlier in the year. Tyler actually cut up and we put it out on YouTube and whatever. Man, the mean 76ers fans out there that I don't know anything. And blah, blah, blah. Like, now I'm seeing people that are saying, yeah, it's over. Joel Embiid is a fabulous talent. He's a 7'2" big guy with a chronic knee condition. Generally, despite what Daryl Morey says, those injuries don't get better. They get worse. And Embiid just went on and told Lisa Salters that his knee is still effed up and he didn't have enough time to recover and he needs to have another surgery. So let's have the surgery. Let's end the season. Let's get a top 5 pick. And let's try to focus on some positive things like a high draft pick. Tyler Zula, your thoughts quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this has become like a practice of banging our heads against the brick wall behind either one of us at this point. I think Quentin Grimes was a really nice acquisition, and obviously he's a restricted free agent at the end of the year, so you're going to have to retain him. But I think at this point it's undebatable that he should be in the starting lineup moving forward. But you're right. I think that this is the problem with this team is the teams that are below them in the Eastern Conference standings stink probably just as bad, if not more. And when the Sixers are healthy, quote unquote, again, bang our heads against the wall. When they're healthy, they're better than all of these teams, and they're going to end up inevitably, maybe by luck, maybe by the fact
these teams are trying to lose games.
Correct. They're going to inevitably end up in the play-in, and nobody is going to be excited about that. They're going to be the 9 or the 10, and they're going to sell it as, well, if the Sixers are healthy, they could beat the fill in the blank, and no one wants that at this point, but that's what it's going to end up being.
Yep, it is. Unless they strip it down right now. They don't allow Max. They say that Maxey, your knee's hurting again. You're not playing. Embiid, we're shutting you down for the rest of the season. Hey, Paul George, play 40 minutes. You're sure to lose that way. Coming up, So get them in right now. This is the last chance, Tyler. Hopefully we have a couple of these to do a segment. Otherwise, we're gonna have to make it up and do a fake show. But questions, comments, suggestions, sports, non-sports, whatever it is, you post it up there on the live chat. Tyler will ask the questions, comments, and give suggestions coming up after this. Also, he is our PHLY Phillies guy, Tyler Zulli. Pitchers and catchers. Jim Salisbury's down in Florida. We'll give you the latest in what's going on down in spring training. That is coming up next. Philly. John Marks, PHLY. Glad Hair Restoration. I'm currently I'm writing like a social media commercial for Glad Hair Restoration, right? I do the we talk about them right here or whatever. But so like I wrote something and I filmed it and I'm like, I really hate that because it's like too wordy and it's too stuffy. So I'm doing one now. I'm just going to be like before, after. So I grabbed a bunch of before pictures before I had hair restoration and Glad Hair Restoration. And I grabbed some really, really good after pictures that aren't doctored or anything like that. These are just pictures from my friggin' iPhone that I'm like, wow, hair looks good there. Normally it's after a fresh haircut is when I get these pictures. Like my daughter when she was newly born, a picture from there, a picture from me and my wife. So I'm really, really and it's going to be like before and after. Here's what I looked like before. Here's what I looked after. And the difference is amazing. At one point I shaved my head because I hated the way that my hair looked. And I have a couple of pictures of those. And then it's like, okay, and this is after. And this is 12 years after. Imagine what my hair would look like now if I didn't get it done. Because it looks great now. We know what it would look like 12 years later. Glad Hair Restoration, most experience and most success in all of the hair business. It's all they do. And that's why if you're thinking about hair, and it's not just about hair restoration, it's about innovation. I know we say that like a lot of different ways that you can deal with your hair loss. You may not be in line for hair restoration. Maybe you just want to stop the existing thing in thinning and shedding. You can actually do that, and it doesn't involve the nonsense you see on social medias where you get some guy spraying something all over his head. Trust me. 610-980-4000. Speak to their hair team right now. 610-980-4000 or the website, Glad Hair MM. Glad Hair, the MM's for Morgan Stern Medical. GladHairMM.com. Hooah! All right. Rothman. Yes. Frozen shoulder, Johnny Marks. Rothman, 3 years ago, I made one of those silly New Year's resolutions. All right, maybe they're not silly, but you know what I mean. And I said, you know what? Like, I'm getting my shoulder fixed because for the last year, I've been hoping it was going to get better. I was Googling some things, some exercises I could do to maybe help the shoulder. And then I just decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to need an MRI. I'm going to need surgery. What the hell is going on? So I went to Rothman. And in one appointment, they diagnosed me with a frozen shoulder. You don't need an MRI. You don't need if you want a cortisone shot, you can get it, but you don't necessarily need that. I didn't get it. I'm going to write you a script. They wrote me a script for physical therapy. After 6 weeks of physical therapy at Rothman, I went to the Limerick location, and they have physical therapy. They have physical therapy right there at Rothman. My shoulder was back to 100%. Legit. Haven't had a problem since. So if you're in bad shape, somebody tears their knee, ACL, meniscus, whatever else happens with Joel Embiid. Obviously, Rothman, right? They specialize in orthopedics. They specialize in you. They have an expert for everybody, everything, each body part, right? But when you're on the 5 out of 10 pain scale, the 6 out of 10 pain scale, the 7 out of 10 pain scale, and you just deal with it, lingering pain. If you are active, if you play golf, you're hurting the next couple of days. You realize that you don't have to live like that. And you could go to Rothman Orthopedics right now. And that's what they're there for, to figure it out. It's not just about major injuries. Rothman Ortho, if you want to feel better, if you have an injury, whatever it is, RothmanOrtho.com/PHLY. RothmanOrtho.com/PHLY. Rothman Orthopedics. Hooah. There we go. RothmanOrtho.com, yes, /PHLY. All right. So, Tyler, let's we'll end with questions, comments, and suggestions. So it'll give people another chance to get, there you go. Just get them in there. Tyler will favorite them on the live chat. Last call, questions, comments, suggestions, end of the show. But we have some Phillies fever As first of all, so Tyler, last year you were part of the PHLY Phillies show with Jamie and Renee. The network has been retooled. The Phillies coverage has been retooled. So tell us, PHLY Phillies, tell us what you and what is in store on the network this year and right now with the Phillies stuff.
Yeah, super excited. So live shows have been reduced a little bit. We've realized the monotony and mundaneness of covering baseball every day in that capacity. So live shows will be Monday and Friday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll do a little bit more like deep dive stuff. So on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, we talked about what makes Jesus Luzardo's slider so effective. And it'll be stuff like that. It'll be deep dive, nerdy. Like it's kind of content that as a baseball fan, I would love to see. We've kind of got this blank slate. So it's really, really cool. We're going to trial and error things. We're going to fail sometimes. We're going to succeed sometimes. And I think we're going to have a really fun season of different coverage coming up.
And during the season, I'm sure you'll have more stuff during the week. Maybe it's shorter segments, game reactions, and things like that. So the coverage is going to be great. But it's a little bit different this year, and it's going to be headed by Tyler.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, this is John. You don't you know me pretty well. You know I love the Eagles. You know I love all Philly sports. But baseball is where I grew up. Baseball is my love. Baseball is my sports love. And so to be able to cover the team that I grew up loving in the sport that I love, I mean, it's a dream. It's an absolute dream.
I love because, a lot of times there aren't a lot of storylines down in Clearwater, right? Like if you've been down there as a member of the media before, it's better to get there early than late because by the end of spring training, the players are grumpy and they just want to start the season. The media is grumpy because they just want to go back to Philly and start the season. Like everybody's ready. As great as Clearwater is, and trust me, Clearwater is great. If you've ever been to a spring training or you've never been to a spring training, and like just put it on your bucket list. Every year, and being in radio for so long and being able to go down every year, I was blessed to be able to go down on somebody else's dime and enjoy Clearwater and Clearwater Beach and be at the complex and interview the guys. It's so much fun. But I enjoy seeing like John Clark will go down early. Our own Jim Salisbury's down there right now. And then you get the stories and you get like right now. So the first story coming out that I've seen is Taijuan Walker, who is, he's trying to, and he's got a big contract. He's got a big money contract that still has a couple more years left on it, but he's pretty damn close to getting released or traded or released if he continues to pitch the way that he pitched last year. So he's saying all the right things. I was impressed with how he handled last year. Like he very easily could have been a me guy or shut it down and didn't talk to the media. So if you're watching this is Jim Salisbury's Twitter. This is Taijuan throwing his first bullpen of the spring. He looks like he's in much better shape. It looked like maybe he slimmed down a little bit. And I saw some interviews and things with him, and like he sounds like he's in a pretty good space mentally to turn this around. Now, if he doesn't, who the hell cares? Because he's not really penciled in to do a whole heck of a lot, other than be a guy that could be a starter. So, Tyler, as we head into spring training, what is the most likely scenario for Taijuan Walker once the regular season is started?
That's the $1 million question that I probably have about 9 different answers for you. I think the likeliest scenario is that he's going to be on the roster in some capacity, whether it be as a long man or whatever the case may be. I think the best case scenario is that Taijuan Walker pitches extremely well in spring training and somebody says, hey, if you're willing to eat X amount of dollars, we'll take Taijuan Walker for a low-level prospect. And if you're willing to eat, what is it? Like, I think it's $36 million left or $34 million left on the 2 years. If you're willing to eat 15 or 18 of it, we'll take the rest. And here's our 25th prospect, and, we need a starter.
Right.
That's the best case scenario. I think the likeliest scenario is that he's probably on the roster in some capacity as the long man. It'll be he and Joe Ross. Like, Walker will be the long man. Ross will be the swing guy. And I think you're using him as, I don't want to say protection,
depth.
But like it's depth if Ranger isn't 100% healthy or Luzardo's not 100% healthy or something happens to one of the other 3 starters. I think that's probably the likeliest scenario.
Yeah, he's there for depth. He can slide in and be a starter if there's injuries or something like that. If not, he's your long guy. And you know what? If you end up designating him for an assignment because he sucks or whatever, like you do that. But it makes no sense. He would have to be so god-awful in spring training that they would have to be like, well, we just can't keep him. We just have to release him right now because you're eating a lot of money. So if you're already paying him to release him, just keep him. So I think I agree with you, Tyler. You're dead on. Most likely scenarios, he starts as a bullpen piece. And
I think the question is like, what number are they willing to get to before it is eat the money time, right? If he pitches poorly again, right? So like I said, there's 2 years left on his contract. I want to say it's $36 million, but it's $18 million a season. So if they get halfway through this year and they owe him another 9 plus the 18 next year, is 27 enough to move off? Are they going to wait until it's 18 next? You know what I mean? Like, what's the number?
It becomes easier to do it. No, you're right.
What's the number they're comfortable saying the sunk cost and let's just eat this thing and move on?
Yeah, they would rather not do that. Because here's the other thing. I don't know if anybody believes this. I don't know if I believe it. Maybe he regains his form this year. Maybe the velocity has an uptick, even if it's for half a season or a season. Who knows, right? So that's that. I want to discuss Alec Boehm, but can we make a note to do this tomorrow? Because I feel like I'm going to be rushed. Because I'll just read what they said. The headline is that Alec Boehm seems like a different guy to Phillies coaches. That I haven't seen him today, but I talked to him. He's so positive. He seems like a different guy. He's grown up so much since we brought him in, but he seems like a different guy, like he's grown up again. We'll talk about it tomorrow. But Rob Thompson had said at the winter meetings that what is he talking about? No one says he's immature or anything like that. What do you mean? Now he's saying he's grown up. Please. They're trying to spin it now to bring him back, as they should. They need to do that. But we'll do Alec Boehm and we're Philly. So, Tyler, every day we're going to do a Philly segment in this last segment right here. All right. So, do we have enough to do questions, comments, and suggestions? Do we have a couple?
Yeah, we do.
We do? All right.
I would say we have 7 in total.
Wow. Thank you, guys. Questions, Q. Comments, C. Suggestions, S. QCS.
I would say a majority of it is Q, but we will get to it here. Let's start with Travis. Travis, his question is, how can the Eagles get rid of Huff? That was the only mistake made in the offseason.
So if Howie Roseman can find the DeLorean and go back to last offseason before he did that contract, it'd be the only way you get rid of him. Like at this point, they're not going to cut him. And then the way the contract was designed, and it's smart by Howie, they gave him big money in his first 2 years. But after year 2, I think you cut him, and it's like maybe like $5 million is guaranteed towards that third year. So you would cut him after that year. But so, by the way, Josh Huff was productive in this league. So I think without the expectation and without the focus of Bryce Huff, you suck, Bryce Huff, you suck, Bryce Huff, you suck, like he's almost going to be an afterthought because the other guys in front of him developed and they're really, really good. So if now he comes in as a situational pass rusher, he could be really good next year. But right, is that stupid? Like coming in expectations, you're replacing Hassan Reddick. You bum, you're a 0. I was saying on the show to change his number to 0 because he gave, or is he 0? And I was saying that he's 0 because he gives 0. It might be 0. He could come back next year and have 6, 7, 8 sacks. So financially right now, it doesn't make any sense to get rid of him. So you're not going to get rid of Huff this year. And you're not going to be able to trade him. They tried to say before the trade deadline, like one of the idiot national pawn pieces said, oh, yeah, well, the Eagles, there's interest in Bryce Huff across the league. Oh, my ass, there was interest in Bryce Huff at the deadline. All right, Tyler, what's next?
All right, next question comes from Justin Watts. Justin said, I checked yesterday to see if Bradbury was still on the roster, and he is. Do they cut him this year?
He has no guaranteed money. Darius Slay has no guaranteed money. So Bradbury will not be back. You have some of the void years where there'll be some dead cap money or whatever later. But yeah, they'll cut him. And then Slay doesn't matter. He has no guaranteed money left. So it's a matter of whether the Eagles want him back. He's not going to come back and play for non-guaranteed money. If the Eagles want to give him another year, I think if the Eagles say, hey, listen, Slay, we still think you're a really good player. Let's do a 1 or a 2 year deal where it's really a 1 year deal. Or if there's another team out there that says, hey, here's a pretty big suitcase. We want you. I'd like to see Slay play 1 more year with the Eagles. He's got enough left. He was really good this year.
He was really good this year.
Really good this year.
I think pairing him up with Quinyon Mitchell and DeJean on the inside, it was an excellent pairing for them.
Well, they don't have a replacement for him. And I'm fine with DeJean playing the same role he played this year, maybe with some more emphasis on it, right? You have Isaiah Rodgers, who's still making rookie contract money. I bring Slay back on a short-term deal. No problem. No problem. But James Bradbury is going to be gone. All right, what's next?
All right, next question comes from Scott. You talked about this earlier. Scott says, please get back, quote, in the weeds, if you don't mind. How are void years different from salary deferrals in Major League Baseball? Does Lurie spend more up front or more on the back end or both?
Well, salary deferrals in baseball, that's just about the actual money they're paying. It doesn't change the way that the contract's structured or like how the cap hit's structured. So the reason why Bryce Harper gets $300 million is because they spread it over 13 years. But it's average annual salary for those 13 years. So 13 divided by 300. Carry the way. So you know what I mean? So it's like it's evenly divided. That's what it is. You can't manipulate the cap. The actual dollars you're paying the player, it's what the Dodgers are doing. Like they're deferring it they're giving these big contracts, but they're deferring chunks of money to make it more palatable right now. So it is similar to what the Eagles are doing because they're willing to actually put up big money, but a lot of it's not till later on. The Eagles are paying everything right now. There's a glitch in the cap. And unless enough teams take advantage of it, anybody could do it. Any team could do it. They just choose not to. So could the Phillies defer all this money? And the Dodgers don't they have over $1 billion deferred in the future? That's crazy.
It's a lot of money deferred. Yep.
They're also making a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the thing with the deferred money is there has to be an escrow. There has to be a cash capital to
you have
say,
to put it up.
We're good for this. It's why teams that, cry poor aren't able to do this in the same capacity because like you said, you have to be able to upfront say, we're good for this 10 years down the line. Because in reality, you could say, hey, we'll pay you in 2030 and then sell the team.
Sorry, I don't have any money.
Right.
Screw you. All right, what's next?
All right, Provolone John asks, Steelers are probably going to get rid of Najee Harris. Any thoughts to replace Kenny Gainwell?
No thoughts on Harris. No, you don't need a between the tackles big back. If Gainwell was to go, you would have to look at Will Shipley. And I don't know if they showed him enough this year to where they feel comfortable with him being the number 2 back. There's plenty of backs you can sign in the free agent market that could be a number 2 back. I'm fine with Kenny Gainwell being the number 2 back.
It's a deep running back draft class this year, too.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's like super explosive, but like you could get an RJ Harvey from UCF in the 5th round or 6th round and feel good about
Eagles
that
haven't done well drafting like that. But I'm with you. I would actually like another dynamic back because the Eagles showed you this year how important the run game is to their team. And you don't need somebody that's going to play like Saquon. But if God forbid Saquon gets hurt, and I think it's important to say this, running backs that come off the usage that Saquon Barkley had in 2024 typically slow down the next year. And Saquon has had an injury history. So to think he's going to stay healthy for all 17 next year, I think is, I don't want to say a reach, but still, I would prepare for him not being there. And by the way, if you're watching on TV right now, slide on over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the show. So all of our Xfinity, Samsung, Roku viewers, thank you for watching. To watch the rest of the show for a couple minutes here, allphly.com.
Well, and I think it's a difference between injury. I'm not going to worry about an injury popping up, but it is probably fair to say the guy had one of the greatest running back seasons of all time this past year. If he has a really, really good year next year and runs for 1,500 yards as opposed to 2,000,
that's still a great year.
It's still an unbelievable year. But statistically speaking, there's probably going to be a small regression because
it could be a big regression.
Has a running back ever gone for 2,000 in back-to-back seasons? I imagine probably not. Right. So that's my point. Is it could be just a statistical regression. I'm not going to get into that just yet. One more sports question before we got a couple of fun ones for you. Fit Dad CEO says, how stupid is Dak Prescott for constantly saying things that set him up for failure?
Fit Daddy's stupid, right? The only thing, the only thing you should be doing is looking at the Eagles and saying, they're a good team. They got it done. It's another Super Bowl. It hurts. It hurts seeing another team in the division win the Super Bowls. And all I think about all offseason is how do we get there? What do we need to do? You know what else he could have done? He could have put Jerry Jones on the griddle and pressured him to get more help in here. Look what Joe Burrow's saying. How come the Eagles can sign all these players? Joe Burrow is putting his ownership on blast. Hey, you can sign T. Higgins. The Eagles sign all these players. It's smart because now it puts it on ownership. Now, you can't just say, oh, why don't you take a pay cut, Joe Burrow? No, all these owners can pay whoever they want to. Jerry Jones is the ultimate cheapskate for being a billionaire. So, yeah, Dak Prescott's an idiot. And here's the other thing. Dak Prescott, if you want to go look and you look at game logs, the Cowboys have done well against the Eagles in years previous to this year during the regular season. During the regular season, you idiot. How do you play in the postseason? How do the Eagles play in the postseason? How does Jalen Hurts play in the Super Bowl, right? That's what matters. Regular season, garbage time, stat compiling quarterback, Dakota Rain Prescott. Have a great 2025, Dak. What do you got?
All right, here's 2 more questions. Question for you, John. Would you rather go in a deep sea submarine or go into outer space?
Outer space by a hair.
Outer space by a million for me, John.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be either places, I guess is why I would say it. The whole guy that made his own submarine and they couldn't find him and stuff, and obviously they all died.
The ocean scares the you-know-what out of me. There is so much untapped in the ocean. It's a scary place. I don't want to be anywhere near it if I don't have to. It's
a great comment because you feel like if you're on, like if I'm on a boat or I'm out in the water or even if you're like in the ocean at all, a shark could bite you. I mean, people were drowning at the Jersey Shore in riptides last summer. The ocean's dangerous, man. You go out on a boat, something happens to the boat. I watch Deadliest Catch. I know what goes on out there. I watch Wicked Tuna. I'm big fans of those 2 shows. Like F and S can happen out on the sea. In outer space, it's so beyond anything you can possibly think of. Obviously, things could go wrong, but you're in outer space. You're on a rocket ship. That's not normal. Being on a boat is very real. And, man, you go down on a boat in a submarine, the hell with that, man. Absolutely not.
One final question for you. If you had to pick a job outside of media and could pick any job, what would you pick?
Collecting the carts at Wegmans, the trash or the cart collector at Wegmans. Well, that's what I want to do when I retire from media. Is I want to work part-time at Wegmans, and I like 20 hours a week, probably 4 or 5 hour days, and I want to collect the carts. And I want them to leave me alone, and I want to put on whatever the AirPod is at the time when I'm 60. And I just want to enjoy the weather, whether it's hot or cold, and I want to just enjoy myself. If I was to leave media right now for like a full-time job, what would I do? Oh, that's a good question. Nothing. I have no other skills. I don't think I could do anything else.
I did 1 year outside of media in my professional career. What
did you do when you left the Fanatic?
I was a project manager coordinator. So I was a PMO coordinator. So I was basically like the liaison between project managers and internal, like the warehouse and things like that. So basically what I did was run back and forth and like make sure we had things in stock. And it was, I love the people I worked with. I love the company I worked for. But it was the only time I didn't have a media job. So it took me a really long time to not have like a media mindset.
It's a lot different. Yeah. My wife was telling me she needed me to do something. She's like, you got to put it in an Excel spreadsheet. I was like, well, you're assuming I know how to work an Excel spreadsheet. Because guess what? I got no idea. None. And you know what, Tyler? I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. I don't have to. If someone wants to teach me or at some point I have to do it, then I will do it. But at this point, I'm not going to put anything in an Excel spreadsheet. I'd actually love to teach too. I would love to be an adjunct professor in college. But being that radio is where it is right now, I don't know how many young people I would advise to get into the radio business. So, yeah, we have that.
That's the one thing I always tell people when it comes to this industry, you got to love it. You got to be passionate about it because it's a grind to get to where you want to go.
It'll eat you up, brother. It'll eat you up. All right. Shout out to everybody out there. Appreciate it. Tyler gets the podcast, the audio version podcast up. So if you want to listen and you're a YouTube watcher, but you're in the car and you're like, oh, you know what? Well, I've been watched today on YouTube. I can listen to Philly with John Marks wherever you find your podcasts. Just search Philly with John Marks. Everything we do, PHLY Eagles, Tyler stuff with the Phillies, Anthony, everything. Just search wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, on YouTube. Thanks for watching live. You can watch at your convenience. Smash the subscribe button, like and comment. And, yeah, we appreciate everybody getting on every morning and joining us live or watching later on as we try to grow the Philly with John Marks community. Tomorrow morning, Correspondence, we're looking for you. Live from the parade. If you're at the parade waiting between 8 and 9, check in, DM me on my social medias at John, Jon, Marks, M-A-R-K-S Media. If you're going to be out and about and you want to check in via video. That's tomorrow. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you then. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.